Yeah, get it on. Got to get on. No choice but get on. Mandate, get on. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for telling a friend. We love that about you. Orny Adams in studio. He's got dates coming up. Teresa Strasser in studio. She's got a book, which I read the prologue to, or had her read it to me, actually. Making It Home, Life Lessons from a Season of Little League. Wherever you find finer books. Good to see you both.
Thank you for having me. Good to be here.
Yes, our pleasure. My pleasure. Orny?
It's a new shirt.
Yes.
It really is.
It is.
It's a departure from your normal,
Yes.
gym wear.
Well,
Now, what's going on? Looks like you've been to Ross, Dress for Less.
I oftentimes have this thought, which is I have no thoughts about my personal appearance or how I dress, but then I realize other people may have thoughts about it. And then I realize that you can get judged by, how you present yourself. And also Teresa's coming in, she's going to take a picture, so
she's a big deal.
I went into the closet and got something nice.
I am so flattered. You wore this shirt to be in a photo with me, which is, of course, very important to me.
I'd like to opt out of the photo right now. I'd like to opt out.
Done and done.
I don't want to be a part of it. But here's the thing. Do you own a scale? Do you care about your appearance?
Oh, yes, I do own a scale. Yes, I do. I shouldn't say I care nothing about my appearance.
Do you know where the scale is? Like in which one of your 15 bathrooms in your mansion?
It's in the butler's quarters, which is past the library, and it's catty corner to the gazebo.
Yeah.
And I don't know, what do they call the bird sanctuary? There's a name for it.
An aviary?
An aviary, yes. It's catty corner to the aviary, I believe, past the butler's quarters.
By the way, when we used to do shows at the Playboy Mansion, do you remember that there was an aviary and there was a few monkey cages?
Yes. I had a thought about weighing myself the other day that was a sad thought.
What?
I was at a gym, a couple thoughts about weight.
Yeah.
One is I was at the doctor's the other week getting a checkup, right? And I was sitting there, and the nurse is filling out the thing, and she goes, "How tall are you?" And I go, 6'2", and she writes it down, and then she's like, all right, let's get you up on the scale.
Oh, they don't trust you with that, do they?
Right. They trust you with height.
Yeah.
Yes.
They don't trust you with weight. The scale has the stick that comes out.
Sure.
Right.
We can verify the height.
Yep.
They take your word for the height, but the scale, you got to get up.
Here's what you do. Add 2 inches so it makes you less fat.
Oh, that does change your BMI.
Smart, because they take your...
Yeah. I'm 7 feet 2 inches.
Right.
I see.
When I go to the doctor.
So you're
Nobody questions
underweight.
that.
Right. So they don't trust you on the weight. Then the other sad thought I had was I was working out somewhere. I can't remember, a hotel. It was like it was at a nice hotel gym. And they had the official kind of doctor scale, the ones where you move the weights around. And I worked out hard. I ran on the treadmill. I was covered with sweat. My shirt was sopping wet with sweat.
So hot.
And then I got on the scale, and I was a good 10 pounds heavier than I wanted to be. And as I stepped off the scale, I said, "Well, your shirt, it's covered with sweat.
Right.
It's covered with sweat. Isn't that's extra weight, right?"
Yeah.
And I thought, yeah, okay, good. And then later on, I thought, but it was just water that was in you anyway.
Yeah.
Yes, it was displaced.
If I just walked in and stepped on it, the same water would have been in me, so I can't do the deduction.
You should get a credit for that water weight that you've expelled.
But why? It would have been in me if I didn't expel it.
But you ran. So now you ran, so you get credit for the water that's no longer in you.
Oh, you're right. All right, I'm back.
Yeah, that's fair.
But
all right,
here's
so we
the
can
thing.
shave 9 ounces.
Here's the thing. You're not taking off your shirt in a hotel gym where there's like cameras and stuff. You don't want to, because they'll...
I don't want to go full Bobert.
Right. They'll sell that to like, Yahoo Gossip or something.
Oh, my God.
Oh, this Bobert story.
I love it.
Can I, while we're on weight, can I
Please.
just say I got probably one of the most disturbing letters in the mail from our California Department of... Motor Vehicle, DMV, Department of Motor Vehicle. And I open it up, and I've got to renew my driver's license. but I have to go in and take a new picture.
Right.
So I've been in panic. I would have much rather have gotten like, you owe 4 parking tickets.
Yeah.
Right.
That would have been better news. So now I've been on a diet.
Right.
I've been fasting and starving myself.
You're in training for this.
I'm in training for my driver's license picture to the point where I was supposed to have it on Tuesday and I canceled because I felt Monday night I had a fat head. That's how serious. I don't know why. You know, when you renew your passport, you get to take your own picture.
Yeah.
I look like a model.
Yeah.
But the most sacred document you can have is your U.S. passport, I would believe. But the driver's license, we have to go in and we have to subject ourselves to their lighting.
You're at their mercy.
I have a suggestion
I'd
for
love
the
it.
driver's license. It was told to me by a friend of mine when I was in high school. I looked at his driver's license and I'm like, why the sour face? You know, why are you looking pissed off in your driver's license? And he said, well, when the cop pulls you over and is writing you a ticket, you don't want to be smiling. You want to look pissed.
Yeah.
And I thought, yeah, that makes sense because anyone who asks you for your driver's license, you're either at the airport, you're going through security, cop has pulled you over, or you're being carded needlessly because you live in California and you're buying a 6-pack and you're in your 50s and like, we need some license. Or
Sudafedrin at the pharmacy.
Or what they used to do, like at the airport. When I was in my 50s and I went to a bar at the airport and they're like, we got to see your driver's license. And you should look pissed off.
Let's see it. Let's see the pissed off face.
that you've been carded.
Oh.
You know what I mean?
Let me try that.
What the fuck is going on here? Yeah, that's novelty pissed off. Orny.
Oh, it is?
Yeah.
You want real anger.
You want real. You think Trump in his.
Did the indictment?
No. Think about his mugshot. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Defiant, angry. This is indignant. This is a waste of my time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's been
Was that good? I did?
It was a 7. We can do better.
You're always extra critical of me. I've noticed in your other
Because
guests.
I see so much potential in you.
Yeah. That's why if he didn't care about you and didn't believe in you, it's
Right.
like a coach. He would ignore
That's
you. You
right.
should worry if he doesn't criticize
Right.
you.
Everyone worry when I stop criticizing.
I
them.
wouldn't worry. I'd
Exactly.
go home feeling better about myself.
Yeah, but then
But that
getting
doesn't help
fatter
you. Yeah.
and a bigger smile painted on your face when you went to the DMV. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's what I'm here for.
Let me just say, before we get too deep into this episode, thank you for listening to the prologue of my book.
It was very well crafted.
Thank you.
I've always said that Teresa is a very good writer, very competent writer, strong writer. Not everyone is. That's her. I think that's her strength is her writing. Yeah. It's really world class.
Yeah.
And I think you're underappreciated in the literary world.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And we were just talking before the show. I was telling Orny that the audiobook was directed by this guy who's also underappreciated. He's basically the Spielberg of audiobooks. He directed
Fascinating.
Bono, he directed Oprah, Reese Witherspoon, Questlove. Anybody who's anybody, he directs the
How do you direct an audiobook?
You
Is he in the booth yelling, hey, stop on the periods more? That's a comma. Teresa, back it up. First positions, everybody. First positions. Take it from the top of the paragraph. Let's go slow. You see a comma. That's a comma. Hey, come here. Teresa, you know what a colon is? Do you know what a colon is?
Yeah.
And a semicolon?
The audiobook director, it's an intimate job.
Very. Because
you're sitting there talking about stories in your
Yes.
book, and you got some dude just sitting on the other side of the glass. And I always thought about it with Mackenzie Phillips, because when I was doing my first audiobook, Mackenzie Phillips had just dropped her book where she was talking about having consensual sex with her adult father as an adult. And I was like, she's got to read that to some dude who's either throwing up or getting a boner, depending on how he's wired.
Well, not the
on
guy
the other side of the class.
The guy who directed Teresa's. This guy's a professional. He doesn't
get a boner.
No.
Well, he was telling me actually. Well, I was very nervous because there are a lot of characters in my book. I'm not a voice actress, so I was nervous. And he actually Zooms with you before the recording, and I told him I'm really nervous. I'm not a voice actress. I have to differentiate all these characters. It's a book about Little League and my dad, so there are a bunch of different kids. And he said, Yoda-like, this is a good book. And then he took a beat and he said, just deliver the words. You'll be fine. So I think just having somebody you trust who's very experienced made me confident. And then I wasn't worried. But he told me a story that he had recently directed an audiobook. And I heard this author on NPR. He wrote a book about trying to kill himself like dozens of times. He's a professor and he literally was continuously trying to kill himself. And he wrote this memoir about it, which is like a brilliant book and has done really well. But there were some technical difficulties, and the director obviously got really nervous because this guy's whole book was about suicidal ideation, and he was very nervous.
You don't want to send him into a spiral.
Right.
Yeah, I know in your book you may talk a little shit about some family members.
A little bit.
Maybe your dad.
Yep.
I realized after my first or second book, I talked a fair amount of shit about my family as well, but I didn't really know it until I got the call from the publisher who read it and said, "Is your family litigious?"
And you said, "Let me look that up."
I said, "No, they're not. They've never sued anybody. They've never been in a court. They've never
That's the
had
great
any
thing about a family that's benignly neglectful.
That's what I'm saying. There's an upside to it. The downside is no meatloaf on Friday nights, no college fun, no rides.
That's not at your football game, but he's also not going to sue you.
And why, if they're that neglectful, do you think they would even read the book?
No. I think my mom would actually read the book. My dad would never read the book.
Your sister would probably have read all your books.
Maybe. I can't tell. If she did, she'd be scouring for some shit I talked about her. I think
scrubbing for her name.
She may be mean reading.
Oh,
or angry reading. And I just made that term up.
Grudge reading.
Yeah, grudge reading. All right. There's lots of stuff to get into. Teresa actually, because she's brave, volunteered a clip from the old morning show. It's many years ago. Must be 15, 16 years ago now. We used to do where she cried on air.
I wanted to make you happy. First of all, in the news, and we'll get to it later, Jason Bateman has a meltdown and Matthew McConaughey cannot stop laughing. Similarly, I once had an on-air meltdown and you couldn't stop laughing, and I want to venture that this is the hardest Adam Carolla has ever laughed.
All right.
I don't think you've ever laughed harder.
I have to make a category. We have to have separate categories.
Okay. All right.
The fart category makes me laugh harder than anything ever.
Fair.
But outside of farting, somebody farting on somebody, me farting on somebody, outside of the fart genre, this could be the hardest I've ever laughed.
This is something you haven't outgrown.
No. The fart thing?
Laughing at farts?
No, not. Just there.
Is there a recent occasion that this has come up?
Nick Santora, who's a great author himself and scriptwriter and friend, he recently, latest project was Fubar with Schwarzenegger. He brought in a long, extended dance list of him farting into his phone at football a couple of years ago and played it for all of us, and that pretty much knocked me down to the ground.
That's
but so do we need to set this up?
Yeah, I feel like, Dawson, can you set up the concept? We used to do this bit called the bitch bag. This was when we were on FM morning drive time. Can you set up the bit?
It was a very hateful radio bit. Where we all chose one person that we wanted to nominate to throw into the bitch bag for whatever reason. It's usually very, very mean. And then we would count the votes, and whoever got the most votes in the bitch bag, every single bitch about them was read live on the air.
by them. You had to read your own
Yes.
bitches.
Uncomfortable.
Yes.
Uncomfortable, but yes.
And I should say a lot of this features our then producer, Jimmy Brusca. I tried to find where is he now, and I couldn't. So I hope he's somewhere thriving.
All right. Well, this is the bitch bag from, I don't know, 2008 or something.
So all right, but Teresa, overall, you're a very intelligent person. You've had many years of therapy under your belt.
Not enough.
I understand you didn't have the greatest childhood, but neither did I.
No. We got to call it off.
No, she's crying already. Look, you had a bitchy stepmom.
It's over. We got to move on with the show.
I'm sorry, but we have to push through. Oh no, she's crying. Stop laughing.
What are you, Tom Likas? She's crying and you're laughing.
I'm laughing too, because it is funny.
Oh, wait, was that the F word?
No, I said it's funny.
Oh, okay, good.
Rolling hysterics.
I can't help it.
I actually am laughing to gather myself.
Dave and I had to read ours last week, and it wasn't
When
very
I tell you
comfortable.
about shutting up.
It was very uncomfortable. It was uncomfortable for us, but we did it.
I will snap you like a freaking twig if you speak to me again.
Why are you blaming me? There's 4 others. All right, let's read them.
All right. Yes.
And I do want to add, Teresa is terrific. And it's the reason why we hired you. But now, go ahead and read these.
That's good, Preston.
What I love is that I'll have a week off to think about how much everyone hates me in my workplace.
Yes.
Okay. Jim Brusca.
Oh, yeah. You did have a fight with me.
That's a great look. She was good. Teresa got 12 votes and only 10 of us work here. The tears have started.
Why does this delight you so?
It actually is funny.
That's funny. Because the thing that's funny is we're adults and we do this for a living. Please, let's push forward.
Otherwise, you're cutting into your news time. So.
I'm not doing any news. Here's the news. Watch CNN.
This is 5. Wow, this is a 10-pager. It's going to take a while. It's actual scroll. Just rolled across the floor.
Dostoevsky. Oh my God.
Volume 1.
Ross wrote me a page too. He wrote me an entire page.
Read it from the top.
I can't. It's 20. It's really long.
Well, just start reading.
Oh no. It's really that long.
He's going to be a father.
Teresa's on my
in
bitch
6
bag
months.
for bad-mouthing producer Brusca.
And you don't want to read it. Well, I think Teresa has been a great addition to the show on the air. And her wit and intelligence, definitely welcome additions to our show.
Oh, no. Come on, Teresa.
All right.
You
She's
can't
crying
leave.
again.
You can't.
Oh, she left.
Can't do no, not trying to block her.
Down. Thank goodness we have the 400-pound goalie.
Teresa ripped the crap out of him.
She is.
And then you went drinking with everybody, and you told every single person there, and you're our boss, and you're a total gossip. That is completely
This is not
unprofessional,
gossip. We're
Brusca.
talking about it in front of everybody right now. This is not
hold
gossip.
on. I need to talk for something. She is the TO of white Jewish
Yeah,
news
I'm so-
people.
I'm-
All right.
Well,
Listen, maybe we should just take a break and regroup. Yes, Brusca?
Well,
all right.
I think she needs to read this during a commercial break, and hopefully this stuff doesn't happen again.
That'll be very
I'm sorry.
fair.
All
One
right.
last
All right. Poor Teresa. I didn't remember what it said.
Well, I think sometimes when a person's crying and upset, you get uncomfortable. And then it
Yeah,
comes
maybe
out
that's why.
as
That was an
laughter.
uncomfortable laugh.
Can we play that clip again?
Very uncomfortable laugh. That's what it was. All right. I have a subject I want to get to, which is an article about that soccer federation guy from Spain who is now banned. And it's indicative of sort of where we're at now, but it's also scary to me. But the scary part is more complicity with the crowd. with the people. With the guy did nothing. That's the guy who planted the kiss on the female player.
The player.
Yes. So there's a first thing, she lifted him up first, which is never told. I think Chris said there's a picture of it, but what was his title?
He was the kisser.
He's the president of the Spanish women's
president of the Royal Spanish Football Federation.
Right. All right. So, okay, I have a concept here.
Okay.
Tell me what you think. We have this article, and it's an interesting article, and we can get into it. But I have what is a overall concept, which is he did nothing. He did nothing. They won they won the World Cup. They all celebrated like mad people. Everyone was hugging everybody.
They're swept up in a moment.
His feet are off the ground.
She's lifting him.
Oh, she is?
Off the ground.
Oh, he didn't jump into that?
I don't think think
that's
so.
An interesting question.
No, she lifted him.
She lifted him.
She lifted him off of his feet as he laughed and shouted.
Right. All right. They're celebrating, and then he planted a kiss on her that lasted 1.5 seconds. And then she said, he's fine. He's a good guy. He's 10 out of 10. I got no problems with this guy. Then she said again, this is much ado about nothing. Then she said again, this isn't a problem. And then they got to her. And they got her to change her story. And then he got shit canned. So the architect of the championship team got shit canned. But here's my overall supposition. I'm curious what you guys think. First off, no one even remembers Spain winning the World Cup. We just remember this guy getting shit canned, right? It's a zero burger. It's just a zero burger. This is not a sexual assault. This is everyone hugging and kissing and cheering and going nuts. Okay, so what is this? I have this theory, and it all comes from the woke and the left. They cannot tolerate happiness or success or achievement. They have to tear it down. Everything needs to go. If there was a moment that this country, Spain, should have been united and rejoicing, they can't have that on their watch. They have to tear it down. But it's just like we got to take down the statue of Ben Franklin or whatever. It's like we must destroy. We cannot celebrate.
But where did the outrage start? Did it start in Spain, or did you?
It started with the usual sort of progressive women's groups in Spain, and just ended up. And by the way, they end up pressuring people, and then the people have to change their stories because there's so much pressure on them from the groups.
But this is her boss. She can't speak out. I think privately in the locker room right after this happened, she said that she was uncomfortable by that.
No, here's what happened.
Okay, deep voice.
She said,
Mr. Deep Voice with all the facts.
After she left the field,
yes,
she streamed some Instagram live video of herself celebrating in the team locker room. She swigs from a champagne bottle, stuffs a chocolate cupcake in her mouth while guffawing and smirking for her smartphone. Off camera, someone asked what she thought of the kiss. Still laughing, she replies, "No me ha gustado, eh? I didn't like it."
Yeah.
Footage emerged of her and her teammates laughing about the incident on the team bus in front of El Presidente of Spanish Royal Soccer.
Yeah, because
then the feminists came in.
I guess I'm a feminist.
Yes, you are.
Yeah.
No, you're just part of the problem.
No, I'm not part of the problem.
Yes, you are.
First of all, have you ever been a victim? Because we don't know how
I don't
victims
think of
act
myself
in
as a
different...
victim.
Okay.
You don't think
victims.
the soccer kiss here is a victim,
Show the kiss in real time.
Let's get the woke author on here to just double down on this.
Oh, gosh.
All right. This is nothing. This is nothing. This is them celebrating.
Oh, let's see the video.
All
okay.
right. There's the celebration. They're hugging.
So was that an ass slap?
She smacks him.
Okay.
And she walks away. He smacks her on the back.
Let's start with the fact that his hand is behind her head, forcing her lips into his lips. She has no option. That's a very aggressive move.
No,
Maybe she didn't want a lip kiss. I don't know. Are Spaniards more likely to lip kiss each other?
Cheek.
I tend to think that group is a little more expressive Europeans in general with the kissing.
So maybe
in general.
culturally that was more acceptable, but she didn't like it.
All right, she didn't like it, but they were celebrating, and everyone was swept up in the moment, and it lasted 1 second.
Do you know that at one time I interviewed Donald Trump when he was the host of The Apprentice, and it was a live interview, and during the interview, he actually grabbed me around the waist and picked me up. He's a big guy.
Yeah.
Like, you're a tall guy. He's probably an inch bigger than you and heftier. Right. And as much as I would love to sit here and tell you that Donald Trump inappropriately, I just didn't receive it that way. That's my
because you're not a victim and you weren't.
It was in good fun. I said, do the people who work for you get intimidated by you? Because I'm intimidated just standing here next to you. Again, at that time, he was just a guy that was a real estate mogul in New York that was always in the Post, that hosted a big reality show and was known for saying you're fired and everything. And I said, are they intimidated? And he goes, no, I'm a big softie. And then he just grabbed me and picked me up. I mean, I was off the ground. I had a little green suit, and it didn't feel bad to me. I wouldn't have said no me gusto, but she didn't like it
because you're semi-normal. Yes,
in this article.
How dare
let's
you?
not overdo it.
In the first statement the soccer player sent to the press, she said that the kiss was a, quote, mutual gesture that was totally spontaneous, prompted by the huge joy of winning a World Cup. The president and I have a great relationship. His behavior with all of us has been 10 out of 10, and this was a natural gesture of affection and gratitude.
Sounds like they got to her. Sounds like they got to her.
They kept getting to her.
They will get to her.
And she said, I wish they created controversy involving someone else. I'm a world champion, and that's what matters.
Yes. All right. So that's where it was. But that's not why he had to resign.
Well, to Orny's point, could her feelings have evolved?
Yes. And
feelings over what? This is the biggest problem we're now having in society. That wasn't anything. I try to tell people this all the time. Matt Damon said Al Franken and Harvey Weinstein shouldn't be. Fuck Matt Damon. It's like, no, that's nothing. There's a bunch of nothing burgers. That is nothing. What we saw was nothing.
Okay, if this guy did this to your daughter.
After she won the World Cup, I would not care at all.
Okay.
Why? Why would you care?
What if he did it to your son?
I wouldn't care. They're celebrating a soccer victory.
But I've won a lot of things.
What is wrong with you?
I've won a lot of things in my life.
Listen.
No, you haven't.
Yes, I have.
You finished off a pig's trough at Farrell's in 1981. That is not
nobody's
a victory.
kissed me on the lips.
That is not. This is nothing. This is nothing. This is the problem we're having is you.
No.
You are the problem.
No.
Everyone should join in a chorus of this is a nothing burger. There's nothing to see here. That was not a sexual assault. He didn't denigrate her. He was celebrating and he was in the moment. It had a perfect context to it. They won the World Cup. That's it. She was hugging him and like rocking back and forth. What? It's not like he came up behind her when she was getting out of an Uber.
He held her head. That's very aggressive.
He gave a kiss.
Now, wait a minute.
How long did the kiss last?
I want to be clear.
No, there is a gesture. There is a gesture where you do that, like what a Nana would do that with her boobala or something. Like, come here.
Booby. You're pulling him. You're pulling him.
That is a gesture. It's not holding her down.
I want to be clear.
Yes.
Okay?
Yeah.
I object to that, what you call minimal gesture. I feel like that was aggressive. Now, we can talk about
aggressive in what way?
We can talk about the consequences.
In what way was it aggressive?
Separate conversation.
What way was it aggressive?
Show the clip again, and don't speed it up this time, so it's a second and a half. That was like a 30-second makeout session.
This is the Zapruder.
Can't you show it from like 5 feet back? I want to see how he's touching other people. Is he holding other people's heads?
Just first off, everyone is hugging everyone. All right, just show the whole thing.
Let's go.
For the love of Christ.
Back it up. Slaps him.
It's a receiving line where the players are going down the line and hugging and
kissing. But let's see how he does it with somebody else.
It's nothing. It's nothing. What do you think this is?
Well, let me just say.
I think it's inappropriate.
No, you don't.
I do.
You're just fucking bought and paid for. You're
No,
not.
by
You
who?
don't think
Who?
it's inappropriate.
Who
You feel
bought
your
and paid me?
mind
By
has
big-
been fucking destroyed.
No, I
Orny's owned by Big Lady Soccer.
Yeah.
This is nothing, Orny.
I'm in bed with.
By the way, if it was
Soccer.
something, why would he do it on a stage in
He's
front of a
an
full
idiot.
stadium?
That's another thing.
He would
Obviously,
go up there
in
to
his
sexually
mind-
assault somebody in front of 80,000 people and 10
Right.
cameras?
I think what you might like to do is distinguish between something like that and, for example, why Danny Masterson is in the news.
There's yes.
Right? So
yes,
let's
Orny,
not
you
lump them
fuck
all.
everyone up who has a legitimate, who's an actual
Oh, I
victim.
do. I do. My voice is so strong.
You and your ilk.
Okay.
Your
First
ilk.
of all, you don't know where I stand
I've
anywhere.
been to your fucking house.
I
I've
know.
seen your ilk.
Okay.
Wait, what goes on at Orny's house?
His ilk.
No, he's critical
listen,
of the colors of my wall.
This is not a sexual assault. This is a zero burger, and it
Adam,
takes
let's
some of
talk
the
about that, 'cause
attention
that's
from
where this tension comes
actual
from.
victims.
No.
Actual victims.
Adam came
now.
up to my house to do
Yes.
some work. He was going to spackle with me. We were going to paint some walls.
Yeah.
He was out of there within a second. He couldn't get out of there fast enough.
Please.
Made up that he had to be somewhere else.
Did you
Made
grab
up.
the back of his head? Did you grab the back of his head?
I grabbed the back of his head. I shoved him into the wall.
I had to
said,
do
"Paint
fucking
this."
Harlan Williams podcast, and I told him I had to be at Harlan's at noon, and at 12:30 he decided to wrap our podcast
Yeah.
and then call Harlan, tell him I was late.
No, Harlan called us and said, "Where's Adam?" I think. Oh, no, wait, we called him.
Yeah, you called.
Let's get back to this because I have clarity on this, and I don't know
Yes.
what this ilk thing,
Your ilk.
clumping me
Your
in a
mind is
group. No,
turned to mush.
No, all I'm saying is I see this as inappropriate. Now, there's
It can be.
Oh,
Can be
holy cow.
inappropriate.
Am I
fair.
going to finish
Can
a
be.
sentence?
Not everything's appropriate.
It's
okay.
fair.
It's inappropriate. Okay,
Yes.
That's what I'm saying. Is the punishment commiserate with that level of inappropriateness? We can have that discussion now. That's a separate discussion.
Look, first off, it's inappropriate out of context. In context, when everyone is hugging each other and lifting each other off the ground and joyously celebrating, it is not. Within the context, it's not. Grabbing someone by the face and kissing them on the subway is inappropriate.
Alone in the locker room before the game.
In this
it's different.
context, it's
I
not.
disagree.
We have him congratulating other players.
Okay,
All right.
good.
There we go.
All right. He's hugging.
Okay,
What?
that was
patting,
a
and
hug.
He kissed that person on the cheek.
That was an ear kiss.
Multiple times. It's,
was the
they're
rocking hug.
These are hard embraces.
Yeah, I agree.
Hard embraces.
That was a peck.
That was the same peck.
That was
That
a
was the
peck.
one.
That was the one. See, now it doesn't
okay.
look like anything compared to what he's doing. He's kissing the
that
other
was
person.
like 14 cheek kisses on the one
This
girl.
is all inappropriate.
No, they're celebrating a fucking World Cup victory.
May I say that?
Can we see how the men are presented after a game? Is there any of this shenanigans?
By the way, if you after the Super Bowl win, because I just watched the Kelsey documentary about the brothers, I'm obsessed with them.
Sure.
There's a lot of very physical celebrating after a Super Bowl win, where guys are hugging and grabbing and patting.
Yes. All right.
How
But
is he
point
off the ground?
This is nothing. This is nothing. It's just not a thing.
Okay.
Everybody embraced him. Everyone hugged him hard.
Okay.
He kissed everyone on the cheek. He kissed one on the lips. This is nothing.
Okay.
He's fired because the wokes got
Wait
to
a
him.
minute.
Got to her.
Where does she stand as of this time?
Well, we have the article. We're going to get to it. Teresa's dad is supposed to be phoning in. Nelson Strasser.
Yes.
I think, see if Nelson
Look at
could
his
back it up
thoughts.
15 minutes. We'll take a break. We'll come back. We'll finish. We have the article. We'll finish the controversy, and we'll do it right after this. Apartments.com helped millions of renters find their perfect places, and they're all different because none of us are the same. So why should our homes be? Apartments.com has the right tools to help you find the place that's uniquely perfect for you. Sort through and filter listings by amenities, and don't miss out on their instant alert option. With over 1 million available units for rent, you'll find the place that's right for you. Whether you're looking for a place with a basement, a yard, or a pool, apartments.com. That's apartments.com, the place to find a place. Orny's all over the country doing stand-up. And what you can do is go to ornyadams.com and find out all the dates. I'm going to be in Louisville, Kentucky at the Louisville Comedy Club this Friday and Saturday, doing 4 shows. We're going to come out to that as well. Teresa Strasser is here, making it home as her book, wherever you find finer books. All right, now that article that we got booted off the website for, we're getting it back. Dawson,
printing right now.
Dawson says. So, my theory that most wokesters are just fucking miserable and cannot handle victories. And I'm basing this loosely on my mom, who was a kind of miserable hippie, and anything that ever happened involving trophies or celebrations or anything, I think it shamed them, and they just found misery in it, or they just belittled it. You know what I mean? Any sporting event was always, oh, these millionaires that are 8 feet tall dropping a ball into a circle, getting millions of dollars while school teachers get $19,000. Do you think that's right? It's like, shut up, bitch. You don't understand anything about this fucking game. And if there was a school teacher that could do what Kareem Abdul-Jabbar does, then they'd be out on the fucking parquet making it happen. But yes,
somebody got triggered.
I'm triggered
by the KISS guy getting fired.
This is them being miserable. Your fucking country, and all these people hate sports, by the way, but they hate sports because sports are competition and they're meritocracy, and it's the opposite of everything they want. It's the opposite of their life's view. Yes, the best X amount of people are on the field. It doesn't matter who they know or who their dad is or what color they are, just the best. And they fucking hate that. It goes against everything that they want in life. So why the energy? Your country just won the fucking World Cup, and the women won the World Cup. Can they be celebrated, or do we have to turn this into a misery fest? Which they did, which had to be done.
Orny, I believe that you said it's inappropriate, but I think we can all agree that it's complicated because there's such a spectrum of inappropriate behavior. And sure, the guy's like hugging and kissing, and maybe he kisses the one girl on the lips, and we can agree that that's not great. It's inappropriate. But in the scope of things that can happen, it's difficult to go, is that as bad as?
I would do this. I would sit them down individually, the team.
Mm-hmm.
Her, particularly the one that got kissed. And I would say, all bullshit aside, this goes nowhere. Do you feel uncomfortable? Do you feel violated? And I'd ask people on the team, did this guy make you feel uncomfortable going down that line? And if they said, no, not really, then issue over. That's it.
Why even have that conversation?
Because I think that they deserve that conversation. Because
what about the girls that were hugged very?
I would talk to them too. I see that as.
But what about the ones that hugged him hard? Should we ask him if he felt
never,
violated?
They should never play soccer again.
I'm saying, what about everyone else that was kissed on the cheek multiple times and hugged and rocked back and forth with a very strong embrace?
Was he rocking them, or were they rocking?
I don't know. It's a fucking celebration, Orny. It's a celebration of their fucking soccer game.
Okay.
You fucking pussies are ruining the planet. You're ruining the fucking planet with this. It was
Can
nothing.
I tell you something?
That
I
was
saw this live.
nothing.
It didn't bother me.
That was nothing. What you just witnessed was a celebration.
No.
That's all.
What? Okay.
That's
the celebration
all. You just
happened.
Saw nothing.
This is where you're getting angry. And I need you to listen.
Because you're ruining the fucking world.
I'm not ruining
with
it
this
all.
Shit. This guy's out of a job, and the only thing we're ever going to remember is this guy. Instead of celebrating the women, you're fucking women up too, because we should be celebrating their victory, not embroiled in controversy.
I'm sure she wants to be remembered for being one of the great athletes on the planet
not
at that
being
moment.
A victim.
I think that if I saw this, I would go, that's weird. And that would be...
It's not even weird.
Okay. Am I going to finish the sentence?
Go ahead.
I would say that...
Well, that's weird is kind of finishing a sentence.
I would say that's weird. Now, comma. Okay? That's...
Semicolon.
But because it has been made a bigger issue by I don't know who, okay? Now we're going to have this discussion. And I'm willing to have this discussion. Would I, if you showed me that, just randomly said, "Hey, Orny, what do you think of this?" I go, "That's kind of weird."
Not if you saw the celebration before it and after it of everyone embracing.
Adam, I'm telling you, if I was watching that game and I watched that celebration and you showed me that clip, I would say that's weird. If you said to me, Do you think that guy should lose his job? I'd say I don't think so.
Yes.
So you label me, you mislabel me because you're uninformed and you'd rather yell over me than take it in and process the information.
Like, you're part of the problem.
Oh, I'm not part of the problem.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Disagree.
This is why you're part of the problem, because
Part of the problem. I'm the bridge between the lunatic side you're on and the lunatic side.
People need to raise their voice and say, this is nothing. Keep moving, everyone. We have real problems. They have real problems. This isn't one of them. This guy is the architect of this championship. Now let's celebrate the women. That's what should be said.
Don't you think that needs to now come from the women's soccer team or football team in Spain?
I don't know who it needs to come from. We shouldn't even be having this discussion.
Well, you started
my thing. No, this one we should.
Okay.
All right, we have the article now.
So the coach himself, after the player said that she wishes I'm a world champion, and that's what matters. Then the Presidente, former soccer player herself, issued his own take on the incident. The moment Jenny showed up, it was she who lifted me from the floor, held my hips, my legs. I can't remember so clearly. She lifted me up. We almost fell down. And when she put me back on the floor, we hugged, he said at a news conference. The kiss, he said, there are idiots out there. When two people have a minor show of affection that means nothing more, you can't listen to idiocy. We are the champions, and that's it.
Did he say idiocy or orny?
No.
I remember what he said.
Ornacy?
Ornacy.
I'd love to be mentioned in the article.
All right,
That'd be great.
Did you play soccer as a kid?
Did I play soccer? No, because I feared being kissed like that if I won.
All right, continue, Dawson.
So the president told an emergency meeting of the Spanish Soccer Federation that he was the victim of a witch hunt by false feminists, and the federation gave him a standing ovation. But then Hermoso, the athlete, discovered that, appearances notwithstanding, she had in fact been traumatized by the incident in a statement posted to Twitter. On the same day Rubiales addressed the Soccer Federation, she says, the situation was a shock for me. In the context of the celebration with the passing of time and analyzing in more detail those initial feelings, I feel the need to denounce this act, as I believe no person in their work, sporting, or social environment.
She's succumbing to pressure from nut jobs like you.
No, I didn't
That's
talk
what's
to her.
going on.
I didn't talk to her.
You sent her.
No.
You got to her.
No.
What you're saying is don't make a full meal out of what should be a tapas.
Hey,
to put it in Spanish terms.
Let's
it's a tapas.
maybe half a tapas.
Let's say she's a victim here. She sees herself as a victim.
She doesn't see herself that way.
She just said that.
She felt the
Because
need
they
to speak
got
out.
to her.
Who's they?
You can keep reading.
Oh, yeah, everything's a conspiracy theory. Who got to her? Bigfoot?
Oh, all right. So she was just left on her own and just created that.
It was the
on
other
her
guy
own.
that shot Kennedy.
She
got to her.
She's allowed. I mean,
She was pressured to do
haven't
that.
you ever had an interaction where later on you feel differently than you felt at the time?
Yes.
Yeah. So maybe that's.
But not
this
in
happening.
Nothing Burger interactions.
But you're deciding for a woman
Yes, I
how
am.
she should feel.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes.
But
Based
she-
on videotape.
To Adam's point, though, there's a celebratory mood. There's jubilation. Everyone's got adrenaline. They've
Why
got
are we using the word
cortisol.
jubilation?
Yes. She's a celebrated author.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
There's euphoria. And so there's a lot of chemicals coursing through everyone's body. And then maybe when that dissipates, you feel your feelings have evolved. And then you go, I didn't really love that guy kissing me on the lips. I didn't love it.
But I think they got to her.
It was a
That's the thing.
cheek kiss for everybody else. For her, he held her cranium.
No, he put his hands on both sides.
No,
of her
it
head.
was there was one holding her, so if she wanted to go back, she couldn't, and it happened.
Why
very
would she
fast.
want to go back? She was viciously hugging him.
But she escalating into a kiss. That's like saying
Escalating into a kiss. That's a peck. It's not a kiss.
That's like saying, he raped me. What do you mean he raped you? You were kissing him. It escalated. They're two different things.
I'm just going to let you sit with that.
You
thought
can
for
sit
a
with me,
second.
and you can. I mean,
All right, rest of the article, Dawson, please.
All right, so she continues in saying, I felt vulnerable and the victim of assault, an impulsive macho act which was out of place and with no consent on my behalf. Simply put, I was not respected. I was asked to make a joint statement to reduce the pressure on the president, but at that time my mind was only on enjoying the historic achievement together with my teammates. That's why I told the RFEF, the Spanish Soccer Federation, as well as the media and the people close to me, that I didn't want to make any kind of individual or collective statement on this matter. And it continues that just 2 days after the Soccer Federation defended the guy, the group apologized now for what it called the totally unacceptable behavior of the highest representative during the final and in the subsequent moments, which did not in any way reflect the values of the whole Spanish society, their institutions, their representatives, their athletes, and the leaders of Spanish sport. American soccer associations naturally deployed the academic rhetoric of safety. No player should ever be subjected to what Jenny Hermoso endured.
Oh, Jesus fucking Christ. You see what idiots these people sound like? They're going full tard on this one. Yeah, it's a safety issue.
Wait a second. Because of herpes simplex 1?
No, because of the podium was 18 inches off the ground. She could have rolled an ankle.
She could have.
Yes.
U.S. women's team member Alex Morgan tweeted that, quote, winning a World Cup should be one of the best moments in these players' lives, but instead it's overshadowed by assault, misogyny, and failures by the Spanish Federation.
Assault, misogyny.
American soccer players have taken to wearing pro-Hermoso armbands and carrying anti-misogyny
These are
banners.
your people, Orny.
What do you mean, my people?
Enjoy these fruitcakes.
No, you don't know you don't know where I stand.
You stand in a ditch.
Abandoned by his former allies, except his mother, who staged an abortive hunger strike which she had intended to continue until Hermoso admitted to her lies, Rubiales remained defiant, as well he should have. The Me Too movement and its international offshoots are destroying normal human life, which consists, for now at least, in male-female interactions. There was nothing sexual about the split-second kiss. It was a spontaneous expression of joy. Rubiales' lips were closed, and the kiss had no predatory aftermath. As soon as Rubiales greeted the next player coming down the reception line, he lost awareness of Hermoso. Spain's social rights minister had adduced the kiss's public nature as evidence of the shamelessness of Spain's anti-feminine culture. It is precisely that public nature that rendered the idea that this was a sexual assault even more absurd. Sorry, that didn't make sense to me.
Yeah, it did. Keep going if you got more.
We need that director. We need the book director.
You need Scott Sherritt.
He
come in
needs
here.
Scott. None of this is going to help Teresa sell books.
Listen,
I've got to sell books.
That's the bottom
We're
line.
having your old dad on in 10 minutes.
Yeah, he's standing by.
Your old dad.
Hermoso's statement that she
I
felt
said it.
vulnerable and the victim of assault was not credible. Her post-victory Instagram video showed no signs of trauma. Loudmouthed, tattooed, and self-assured, this woman is no shrinking Victorian violet in need of a fainting couch.
What? What source is this?
This is an article that was written
By
about
you?
this event. I think it was
Actually,
It's by
because we're
Heather
reading
McDonald.
it, we should name the publication.
Yeah. Who wrote this?
It's written by Heather McDonald, not the comedian, and she's a fellow at the Manhattan Institute.
And so what was this published in?
I don't know. I heard it read on the radio.
What?
All right.
Okay. The media invariably labeled the kiss as forcible. They could as well have described Hermoso's levitating grasp of Rubiales the same way. In fact, Rubiales exercised no force to give her the kiss. Many Europeans kiss acquaintances on a routine basis. Only the number and sequence of those kisses differ from one nation to the next. To plant a kiss fleetingly on the lips in such a celebratory context is hardly a significant departure from cultural norms.
Can you read that line again about the tattoos? I mean, it feels like it's blaming the victim. This is how
we
I
are
dissect,
now because they got to her.
What is that line? Read that again, Dawson, if you don't mind.
Her post-victory Instagram video showed no signs of trauma. Loud-mouthed, tattooed, and self-assured. This woman is no shrinking Victorian violet in need of a fainting
That's blaming
couch.
the victim. And what is having a tattoo
Oh,
of
you're
anything
such a
to do
fucking
with it?
pussy, Orny.
No.
She ruined this guy's career. And by the way, I hope Spain never fucking wins another fucking women's soccer game ever again.
Are you done eating Spanish food?
I'm done.
Will you look at a Picasso picture ever
Never,
again?
not the same way.
No?
No.
How about a piñata? Will
How
you
about
ever?
the movie Barcelona?
No.
Are you done with it? Woody Allen was that him?
How about sangria? Will you
Vicky,
ever drink sangria?
And Christina Barcelona?
I don't drink sangria anyway because I've never looked at a glass of wine and said, I wish it had less alcohol in it.
And fruit chunks.
And
Or
tasted
grapes.
like high C.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't like cutting it. You know what I mean?
That drink is an assault.
Yeah, what are you trying to do here? You take a glass of wine. I'm not down with the mimosa for that
And I'm
reason
gonna
either.
have to stop you here because you're veering into comedy, and that's not what this podcast is about.
You're right. You're right.
Couple more paragraphs
All
here.
right.
Hermosa was not disrespected by a macho culture. All the supposed male chauvinist pigs on the field were as ecstatic about a female triumph as they would have been about a male win.
Well, that's a good point.
In
That's
only
a good
one
point.
sense can one attribute a sexual element to the kiss. Rubiales would not have planted a fleeting kiss on a male player's lips. It was, to that extent, sexually coded. But a latent current of sexual recognition runs through many interactions between males and females. That is the human condition. Any female with a sense of proportion would have brushed off the moment as a never-to-be-repeated outburst of uninhibited joy. Feminism, however, cannot tolerate toleration. It is a brittle ideology, unforgiving of human foibles. In order to maintain female grievance in a world increasingly dominated by females, it requires rigid enforcement of draconian rules that condemn males as unrepentant aggressors. To convince coddled Western females that they are always and everywhere unsafe, feminist complaint requires the inflation of minor misdeeds into major transgressions.
Yes. I feel the same way about this is racist, allegations that are zero burgers. You're just fucking up the country over nothing burgers. This is nothing. We shouldn't even know about it. They should be celebrating this victory. That's it. He's out of a job. Fuck them. And Orny's part of the problem.
No, you're part of the problem because you're giving this power by even discussing it. I didn't come in today thinking I was going to get into a yelling match with my good friend Adam Carolla. You're going to be called. Yeah, you're labeling me. You're trying to.
Yes, the reason I'm labeling you is because whether it is this incident or whether it's COVID, the problem is the people being silent and going along with it.
Okay,
if people had risen up and said this is nuts or this is a nothing burger, if enough voices would do it, then the culture would shift. But people are scared and they're cowards and they go along with it. And we just got fucked up by COVID because everyone is a fucking coward. They should have risen up, but they were scared.
I'm going to get up right now. And I'm going to grab the back of your head. And
forcibly
I'm
Two hands.
I'm going to plant a kiss right on your lips. And you let me know if that's sexual assault or welcomed.
Well, it would be out of context here.
No, we're celebrating a great segment.
If you just
that
won,
was a great segment.
If you just won the Publishers Clearinghouse and Ed McMahon handed you a foam check
for 10 years,
$80 million, then
make it so
you
exciting.
could do it to me and we would have a complete context to it. All right. That's my answer. Now, Nelson Strasser, Teresa's dad.
Making a tight turn here back to my
book. Making a tight turn. Who's featured in the book?
Yes,
and it's good that I know you had a stepmom you couldn't stand, right?
Oh, so she brought me so much joy by dying.
Wow.
What tactically? What was in it for her to alienate you?
A lot of things. First of all, my dad won custody of my brother and I.
Mm-hmm.
He was 5 and I was 3. Mm-hmm. And then she came into the picture. By the way, they met at Synanon, which I don't know if you've heard of.
That's one of those movie theaters where you can eat.
Synanon was a cult.
Oh.
Yes. Wow.
They weren't inpatient. They would meet my parents, like some hippies at that time, would go to Synanon once a week for these groups, and it was called assault therapy.
Oh.
And they just, to quote my dad, they just yell at you what an asshole you were to make you less of an asshole.
Well, there was a whole movement that Orny missed because he was in the Boston area, right? You didn't if you're of a certain age and you grew up on the West Coast or in the Bay Area, you were tortured by retarded movements that swept through all the fucking weak thinking non-workers on the planet.
Like tofu?
Like my mom. Like tofu. So there was... My mom met my stepdad at Primal Scream Therapy.
Yes, similar.
Wow.
And they even had things called Bataka bats.
Yeah.
And there were these padded bats. And there's a movement, again, in a galaxy of retarded movements of like, you'd be better off eating the box the cereal came in than the actual cereal. Like, just you can't have a microwave because it'll give you brain cancer. You can't sit too close to the TV set. No, the sun's good.
The sun's good. Sun's good. Okay.
No,
then it became bad.
Oh, it became bad in the 90s.
Yeah,
but in the 70s, we worshiped the sun.
That's true.
Everything was a sunflower.
Baby
Every
oil.
third book had a fucking... This is how dumb these people were. My mom was worried about sleeping with a pillow and affecting your spine alignment. Yeah. My mom was worried about a color TV ruining your eyes. My mom was worried about a microwave. But you could get in cutoffs in the San Fernando Valley, go out to the front lawn and run in the sprinkler for 9 hours while the sun was overhead and 110 degrees, and she had no thoughts about that. No thoughts. Everyone has melanoma now.
Well, that's true. So my dad got out of there quickly, but in the interim, he met Carol, and he was a mechanic with 2 little kids, and he just couldn't really take care of us.
A Jewish mechanic?
Yep.
Might be the only one. If there's another one, please make yourself known.
Now, one of the bass player for Mike in the Mechanics was Jewish, but that's as close as they ever got.
But could he rebuild a carburetor?
No, that's just the name.
It was just a name. Okay. So my dad was running Delta Battery, rebuilding alternators, generators, and starters.
Wow,
and he worked 6 days. It's closed. Been closed for many years. Working 6 days a week, and he had 2 toddlers. And I think when he went to court and fought for custody, he never thought he was going to get sole custody of us, and he overplayed his hand. He really, because at that time the mom got custody, even if she was a prostitute drug addict. It was considered better for the kids to be with the mom. So I think he was shocked. And a few months after having us, he realized he didn't know how to take care of 2 kids. And like I said, he would work 6 days. And that's when Carol came into the picture, and she convinced him that he needed to get rid of one of us. And that one should be me. So he returned me to my mom.
How old were you?
I was 3.5.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And
you got returned?
Yeah, I was a go-back. And it's funny because when my dad would call them go-backs, right? Because he was a mechanic, and occasionally the part isn't fixed correctly and it comes back and you got go-backs. And like I was that. I was returned. My mom had a return policy like Nordstrom. She took me right back.
She did.
She was, yeah.
Why didn't your mom get custody? What was the complications?
Well, if you ask her, it was because, and I'm quoting, a sexist bullshit motherfucker. That's what she always called the judge. She appealed the case, but she felt that the guy was just a sexist. So my mom...
What's the judge, Adam Carolla?
It's
sounds like a decision you'd make, Adam. If you were a judge, no women would get kids anymore, right?
I don't know why.
They'd all go to the men.
Why is Judge Carolla not a syndicated strip that's on at 4 p.m.?
It should be.
It really should be.
I can tell you why. Because the media has suppressed his career.
That's right.
That's absolutely why.
That's right. Those goddamn wokesters and syndicated television.
They won't let you go on there. So we were taken from my mom because she had left for Chicago to take a better paying job, and there was 6-month job training. So she left us behind.
Everyone struggled. Everyone struggled back then. Everything was such a fucking struggle.
It was a struggle, and my mom thought if I'm going to leave my dad, I'm going to need more money. So I got to take a better paying job. And her lawyer, when my mom died, in her nightstand was a 30-page typed, like hand-typed, on nice stationery appeal from her lawyer. And the lawyer said a man would not lose his children for attempting to get a better paying job. But she did leave us behind for 6 months to do this job training. And then the judge also said that we shouldn't live in Chicago because it was too cold. And he'd had a brother who died of pneumonia. Judge.
What about all the millions of other people who live in Chicago?
Isn't
How are
that
they
a
getting
strange thing where you just...
What about Jim McMahon?
The
quarterback for the Bears.
Yeah, I mean, he's managed to
How
survive.
about the fridge? His name, the Refrigerator, William Perry,
Yeah,
and he's in
fine.
Chicago, and he's still around.
How cold is he?
The Soldier Stadium isn't even domed. It's an open stadium.
Oprah managed to thrive
Yes,
there.
yes.
Michael Jordan, never
Right.
he was always icing his knees, even though he was already in a cold place.
The lawyer wrote a 30-page.
Yeah, an
Were they
appeal.
having an affair?
An appeal. My mom was pretty hot back then, but no. So my dad returned me, and Carol remained, and Carol just didn't like me, didn't want me around. She had some of her own kids. Funds were limited, and
Sure.
I think she just wanted to get rid of me.
Sure. All right. Now, your dad, I think, is going to call in. I'm not sure what we got. Yeah, I understand you want me to break, but I don't know if Dad's on the line.
We need Teresa to contact her father because he's not answering our calls.
Oh.
I don't blame him.
Well, then screw him.
Oh no!
I don't blame him.
No, he said he's just texted me that he's standing by.
Huh.
You got the right number?
All right. We'll take a break. We got the news. We got a bunch of stuff else. So we got a bunch of other shit coming, and we'll take a break. We'll do it right after this. Hey, O'Reilly, thank you so much for sponsoring this program. You know I'm a car guy, and I know you're car guys, and that's why it's a beautiful relationship, like a Reese's peanut butter cup. I like to think of myself as the milk chocolate, and you guys as the peanut butter, although I can be flexible. Either way, love your products, love cars, and from one car guy to another, thanks, O'Reilly. I appreciate it. All right, we got Nelson, Teresa's dad, on. I'm reading his bio, and there's something I've seen here that's jumped out at me. He lives in Phoenix, but he refuses to use air conditioning.
No, he's very thrifty.
Nelson?
Yes.
How do you get through a Phoenix summer without air conditioning?
Well, this year I had to compromise. I was waking up at night because I was in sweat. So I have to run my air conditioner in my bedroom at night, otherwise I can't sleep.
So you run the
I'm no
unit in
longer-
your bedroom.
I'm no longer pure.
Oh, you're impure.
Is it all financial, or do you think you're sweating out toxins and impurities during your REM?
No, it's sort of both. Maybe it's a rationalization of not having any money that I'm environmentally conscious, but I haven't had a car for 3 years. I just ride a bicycle, which I've got almost 10,000 miles on my bicycle now.
That's
and
healthy.
I don't use
Yeah.
my washing machine. Yeah.
Well, I was going to say, my dad, making it home is about one single season of Little League that I watched with my dad after my brother died. And my dad went to all of those games on his bicycle. And it's frequently 112, 115, 117. My dad just rides his bike.
In Phoenix?
Yep.
Wow. And how long's the ride to the Little League field?
To the field, it's about 5 miles.
Wow. That's brutal. All right. So the book, was it tough to read because there were things in there that weren't flattering toward you?
Yeah, I definitely had my covers pulled. Teresa asked me, she said, Dad, there's some things in the book that are not flattering. And I said, I don't stand in the way of art. Go for it.
Wow.
So,
and, well, let me...
Again, it may be a rationalization, but I feel like I'm not the same person now that I was then.
Yeah, I had a similar situation. I had a stepmom that wasn't a big fan of my sister, and my sister ended up running away at a young age. But at some point, I think I felt like it was sort of incumbent upon my dad to intervene and possibly have a discussion with his wife about alienating his daughter, which my dad never had.
Yeah, that's how I felt. And there's a scene in the book. Our relationship. I never saw her again after she accused me of stealing a piece of her jewelry, and then she told my dad to look through my purse because that jewelry was in there. I knew it wasn't there, but my dad was in an uncomfortable position, and I thought at that time he should have said, "You can't accuse my daughter of stealing your shit." She didn't do it. So I was angry at him. When I was much younger, she threw a lamp at my head and it missed. It hit the door. And my dad turned to her and it was like an action movie. I'll never forget because it was one of the happiest moments of my childhood. And he said, "You better be out of here by the time we get home." And I thought, that's it. The Wicked Witch is dead. I'm never going to see her again. She went too far. She threw something at me. But when we got home, we went to the movies. And I remember sitting in the movie just so happy, eating my jujubes and thinking like, she's gone. Like he's finally stood up for me. And then when we got home, you know, the lamp was swept up and that no one spoke of it again.
What was the movie?
God, I should. Do you remember the movie, Dad?
I don't remember the movie. I think, did you just say how old were you, Adam?
How old am
No,
I?
he asked what was the movie.
Oh, what was the movie? No, I don't remember.
Well,
I hardly remember what I had for breakfast.
To be fair to Nelson, the lamp had a 110-watt bulb, which is really an energy burner. And so if he could get one more thing off the grid, is one more nickel Nelson would have in his pocket at the end of the month. And so that could be it.
The lamp was on a short leash because it was plugged into the wall, so that brought it to a short stop. And
she didn't even unplug it. What kind of maniac throws a lamp at? So it's like throwing a surfboard at somebody when it's still on your leash. Yeah, that's how I knew she was a bad person. Not throwing the lamp at your daughter. But Nelson, I'm sure you wish you had intervened more on Teresa's behalf back in the day. Yes.
Yeah. Yes.
And it's nice that even though all these years have passed and there's been some feelings, that you two could reunite under and enjoy this mutual joy of baseball.
You know, one thing I have to add is that we were never alienated. Like we were always in touch. It wasn't like we were not in communication.
Yeah, I
went to visit her even when she was in New York on TV. I listened to. I paid a few dollars extra to the cable company, and I listened to her show, the news show, every day, every weekday. So.
Oh,
that's
true. That's more than my parents did.
So
nobody had cable in my family.
That was back when he was still a mechanic, and he paid extra. I was on Good Day New York, and he would get up at, was that like 3 a.m. or 4 a.m. to watch? So
yeah, it was like 5. It was before work, so it was probably about 5 o'clock.
We were close, but there were resentments that would sometimes boil
over.
All right. We want to let speaking of news, we want to let your beautiful daughter take a pass at the news here. So we're going to bid you adieu, Nelson, but thank you for chiming in and being a part of this.
Wait, before we let him go, because I think you will enjoy this, Dad, quickly, can you explain how you feel about Biden, Trump, and RFK? Go.
I think there's only one party. It's the war party. And has a Republican wing and a Democratic wing. And it doesn't matter who you have in there. The foreign policy stays the same. It's been the Wolfowitz doctrine since Wolfowitz. Hey, before you guys turn me off, can I say a quick? Can I relate a quick story about your 10-year-old son, who has a really good sense of humor, like his mom?
Okay,
sure.
So a couple months ago, Adam, little Andrew said to me, "Grandpa, do you still have sex?" And I said, "No." And he said, "Were you any good at it?"
That is funny. Yeah, I mean, the price of condoms is astronomical, especially in the Phoenix area.
One other thing, Adam.
Yeah.
Well, you can't get laid if you don't have air conditioning.
The best radio ever.
What's that?
Those were unforgettable moments, like the fight between Danny Bonaducci and Sugar Ray Leonard. I mean, and the bitch bag episodes, which I played for my girlfriend so she'd know what your show is about. So I still talk to people who listen to that show and consider it the best show ever.
Well, thanks, Nelson. I appreciate it.
All right, you guys.
Take care.
Bye, Dad. Love you.
There's a different. My parents mirrored many of your parents of that time, which is the movement has completely changed. It's all about the kids. It's what can you do for the kids? How can you help the kids and everything else? And back then, kids were kind of...
You were along for the ride.
Yeah,
you were lucky to be there.
You're like a roommate who didn't pay rent and got into their food. And there was not the appreciation that they have or reverence that they have today.
No, and I will say, and I think a lot of parents could probably relate to this. And since it's a baseball themed book, let's take the example of Tommy Lasorda. I think he was a pitcher. I don't think he was that great. When he became a manager, he was great. A lot of people maybe weren't great parents. When they become grandparents, they excel at that.
Yeah, my parents didn't make that transition as smoothly, but they stuck to their guns. You know what I mean? They're consistent.
They are on brand.
Yes. All right. Can we do a little bit of news?
Love to.
Now.
Eric Clapton performed at a fundraiser for presidential candidate Robert F. Kennedy Jr. at a private estate in Brentwood near Los Angeles. The event raised $2.2 million for Kennedy. That's $1 million for the campaign and $1.2 million for a PAC supporting the candidate. He said, "I am deeply grateful to Eric Clapton for bringing his musical artistry and rebellious spirit to my gathering in Los Angeles last night." He said, "I sometimes think that in our divided society, it is music rather than any kind of intellectual agreement that has the most potential to bring us together again."
Was Cheryl Hines there?
Yes, I believe she was there.
I like RFK Jr. I like that guy. He's formidable, is how I would describe him. And I'm now at the point where I'm done with all the 10-cent heads. You have to have. I'm even not as interested in your opinions and stances as I am on your ability to think, which is leaving our government.
Well, look, to my dad's point, this guy is an opponent of the military industry. He doesn't like foreign intervention. So my dad likes that about him. He's also been an environmentalist, and he's against the systemic erosion of the middle class. So I think we can all agree on those
And
things.
he thinks that poisons in water cause transgenderism.
If they don't?
No.
And.
No, there is a lot of research about plastics and about those like forever chemicals and sperm count going down and like testosterone going down. And there's probably something to that. But I don't know. I'm not sure what his stance is on that.
Fox News reporting on a very unusual police chase in Vermont. They finally captured a robbery suspect who authorities say evaded law enforcement over the past week in various modes of flight, from cars to bikes to paddleboards to sailboats to tractors. Eric Edson, 52, is expected to be arraigned on more than a dozen charges in relation to an armed robbery in Burlington. Now, what happened was there was the robbery, and then they saw the guy. He seemed to be passed out in a car he'd stolen. They chased him. He ended up on a canoe on the Lamui River. He landed the kayak, which is also believed to have been stolen.
Canoe or kayak or both. It's hard to find a canoe nowadays. Canoes have been,
Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I just went kayaking last weekend. I want to go canoeing. I'm a big canoeist.
What is the difference between a kayak and a canoe?
Well, the kayak is lower to the sea, and I'm not an expert. It's lower to the water, and you sort of sit in it, whereas a canoe is bigger, it can tip over more easily, and you have a paddle, which you switch sides. Sorry, I'm hitting things.
Yeah.
And the kayak is like this. I think a kayak is more swift.
I don't think there's a big distinction these days. I was just in a sea kayak week and a half ago, and I enjoy it, but I feel like the canoe has been replaced by the kayak.
Absolutely.
The kayak
Nobody's talking about this.
It's a better version. The kayak is a better version of a canoe.
No. Look what's going on the left. There's storage space in the canoe. There's a lot more fun.
No, I think the canoe is for sitting, fishing, and you want a 12-pack in between your legs. Whereas the kayak is a little more for exercise and movement and activity.
But you can't. I was just on a lake, and there wasn't a canoe to be found. And nobody is talking about this.
You know what?
The death of the canoe, and this is serious.
You know what I think?
This is real shit.
I'm going to add to this.
Yeah.
Please.
I think the canoe went out with the casserole. There's no casseroles anymore. This was a better country when there were canoes and casseroles.
Yeah.
And now it's all kayaks and fucking panini bread.
Well, I believe,
wraps.
and I believe, and I'm not even trying to be funny, that I think it's chemicals in the water that have led to the death of the canoe.
Interesting.
Yeah, I do. There's been a lot of because look at the kayak.
Yeah.
The kayak is low sperm count. You got to have a lot of sperm to get on a canoe like that.
Yeah.
Look at the kayak guy's not even wearing a safety vest.
You know, I will say this also. When I grew up, speaking of casseroles, the dessert casserole's a souffle, and there was a lot of souffle humor. People be making a souffle. Someone would barge in from outside and slam the door, and they'd go, "Oh no, not the souffle! The souffle's going to drop."
Right.
Any Mad magazine would have a souffle joke.
There was sitcoms.
Sitcoms.
They'd come home. Alice would be making it on Brady Bunch, and Bobby and Peter would get into an argument and slam his books down, and she'd yell, "Not the souffle!" And she'd run. She'd have to go see if the souffle fell. There's souffle humor. There was a lot of canoe humor, too.
Really?
A lot of people trying to stand up on the canoe, falling into the lake, stepping off the dock into the canoe, putting both feet on both edges of the canoe and rocking. There's no canoe humor.
You also had to, like when you're in a kayak with somebody else, you can fight the whole time because there's nothing the other person can do. If you're on a date and you're canoeing, you do not get into a fight with the other person because they can tip it over very easily.
Right.
They can threaten to stand up. They can do this sort of stuff. And that's part of the fun of the canoe. I didn't feel a sense of danger with the kayak. Maybe I'm just more masculine than you and some other people.
I'm just saying,
canoeist.
There was a simpler time when there was a canoe in the garage and a casserole in the oven that would be followed by a souffle, and it was just a simpler, better time in America.
Is a kayak just a woke canoe?
Yeah. I think that's what it is.
I don't think the guy on the kayak in the picture looks
they showed
woke.
two weird pictures because they're both fishing, but I never see anyone fish in a kayak. I always see them paddling, like out looking for sea turtles.
I like a good old metal Deliverance canoe.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
You got your gun in there? Where's the gun go in the kayak?
No, up your ass.
Near your dueling banjos.
Right.
Yeah. You've got camping gear that goes in a canoe. Canoes for the real outdoorist.
I'm with you.
Yeah, thank you.
Right.
We agree.
A serious story that's been making a lot of news today. Bijou Phillips Masterson has filed for divorce from husband Danny Masterson over a week after he was sentenced to 30 years to life in prison for raping two women.
Wait, God damn everyone. She's married. Bijou is married to Danny Masterson.
She was.
Okay.
Yeah, still is.
Okay. Can I say this?
Yeah.
4 days ago, somebody said to me, "Yeah, he's married to Busy Phillips," and I go, "He's married to Busy Phillips?" Yeah. I go, I never heard that. Oh yeah. I like when people who are wrong put the O in front of yeah.
Yeah.
And I go, I've seen Busy Phillips do stuff. I did her show and Dawson's Creek and stuff. I've seen her do videos and stuff. Like, he's married to Busy Phillips? Absolutely. I'm like, wow. I just figured I would have heard about that. No, well, they're married to Busy Phillips. And then I'm like, oh. And I remember just sitting and thinking like, she comes from money. She doesn't seem like she would be that type. I don't know why she's with him. And then I started thinking, well, and I was like, is she going to stand by his side? Oh yeah, Busy's going to be there. It's Bijou.
It's Bijou.
And why, Teresa, you're a woman, maybe you can help me understand this. Well, why would she file the divorce after the conviction? Had she not seen enough evidence through the trial?
And this was a second trial.
Yeah.
So she wept when the guilty verdicts were read on May 31st, and she showed similar emotion at times during his September 7th sentencing hearing when a judge handed down the maximum sentence allowed by law to the 47-year-old actor. Masterson will be eligible for parole after serving 25 and a half years, but he could be held for life. Of course, Masterson is maintaining his innocence, and his attorneys have said they plan to appeal, contending that there were problems with evidence and constitutional issues with his conviction.
I'd like to know, and Adam, this would be something that you and I would indulge in if we had more time. I think we could come up with a scale for how safe somebody like this is in prison, because he, to me, looks like fresh meat. So he's probably a 9 out of 10. He was on a show. I think he's going to be, bitched up pretty fast. Whereas if you took a Harvey Weinstein, that guy's safe, right?
I feel like he's sexually safe because he's so sort of unattractive.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, high profile, Hollywood rapist. I feel like they would just give him one of those soap beatings, but maybe not the raping. Maybe minus the sexual part.
Yeah.
Well, Bijou has actually communicated that she's concerned for his safety in prison.
I'm concerned for the women he raped.
Thank you.
Well, one of them was his girlfriend, right? Of years.
So he was found guilty of 2 of the 3 counts of rape after 7 days of deliberation. Both the attacks took place in Masterson's Hollywood area home in 2003 when he was at the height of his fame on the Fox sitcom That 70s Show. The jury couldn't reach a unanimous verdict on the 3rd count, an allegation that Masterson also raped a longtime girlfriend.
Oh, that was the one they couldn't.
Right.
All right, so those are legitimate versus that one. Because the rape of the longtime girlfriend that you continue being a girlfriend with, that one's a little dubious to me. That one needs to be...
I'm handing it to you,
That one
Orny.
needs to be discussed a
come
little.
on.
No means no.
You got this.
No.
You got
Let me
this,
explain
Orny.
this for Adam. For most people, no means no. It's the 5th no that matters for Adam. That's when it becomes... That's right.
I get to double digits. That's what I'm thinking.
So she says no 9 times. You're still moving forward with the act.
Oh, come on.
It's the 10th.
It's that
it becomes legally rape.
Double digits is where I slow my roll.
This would explain really much of the argument we just had about the Spanish soccer dude.
Who you'd like locked in the same prison.
No, we never got to conclude
guy.
that. Because you knew I was right. You knew I was right.
Right.
I said to you, we're going to segregate the discussion between the act versus the
this
punishment.
guy is not, that soccer coach is not only out of a job, but he's been so tarred and feathered that I don't know he can get on another team.
Oh, he'll come back.
You do?
I do.
Okay.
Howard Stern has said his friendship with Bill Maher is over.
Oh.
After the HBO Real-Time host made a comment about the radio shock jock's habit of gushing about his wife on air. I'm quoting Bill Maher here. He goes on about how much he loves his wife, Beth, which he's been doing on the air for like 10 years. He said this on the Monday episode of his Club Random podcast, during which he interviewed Julian Lennon. He went on to say, but we know Howard had this other wife before Beth, alluding to Allison Burns. The two got divorced in 2001. Bill Maher, 67, has never been married. All of this as reported by the New York Post.
That doesn't seem that harsh. I think Howard's skin's getting a little thinner as he gets a little older.
Have you been on his show in a while? You were great on that show.
No, I'm no longer welcome on that show.
What?
Because I was right about everything COVID.
Oh,
So
okay.
it's important that I be punished for being correct
being
about
right.
everything COVID.
Were you wrong about anything?
Not COVID.
No, really?
Related.
Nothing?
No.
Wow.
Well, you can bring it up.
Do you go on Bill Maher's show?
Yes, I have. I've been on Bill Maher's, both his shows.
How's he?
In what way?
Like personally?
Bill
would you want to have a beer with him?
Bill is not a knock around kind of guy. Like, and a lot of comedians aren't knock around kind of Joe Sixpack guys. Like I like the blue collar types to watch the game with and crack the beer. Like I love I like a higher intellect, but guys who like hanging out. And there are definitely some of those dudes out there. He's not like a knock around kind of guy, but he's very interested, super smart, very inquisitive, and like he's always treated me right. He's come on this show. I've come on his show. I've done his TV show many times, but he's not a bro. You know, he's not a dude, and he doesn't want to be, and he doesn't claim to be. He says, I live this life. It is not heading down to Hooters with you shit kickers and knocking a few back. I got my own thing going on. But in general, I like him, and I find his honesty refreshing. And I'm now at the point where I no longer need to agree with people. I just need to think that they're honest. And then we're done. All right. Sorry. Where were we?
Do we have time for one more story?
Yeah, one
because
more.
I
Quick.
just love this. Jason Bateman had a meltdown. This is from Entertainment Weekly. Not even celebrities are safe from the horrors of technical difficulties. And Adam, I'm sure this has happened to you. It's happened to everybody. You're trying to log on to Zoom. Something goes wrong. On the latest episode of his Smartless podcast, the Ozark actor, recalled the recording session that made him spiral into madness. The 2-year-old incident forced Bateman and his co-hosts Will Arnett and Sean Hayes to scrap an episode entirely. The worst part being that Oscar winner Matthew McConaughey was listening the whole time. And I have to play you a clip. And if you haven't listened to this podcast, the conceit is that one of them books a very special guest, and it's a surprise to the other co-hosts. So when Bateman is having technical difficulties, he doesn't know who's on the line. Take a listen.
Hello,
can you hear us?
It's not. I don't see it here on the sound thing. So let's cancel. Let's just let's reschedule this thing. I'm in a total fucking tailspin.
Yeah. Sorry, buddy.
Great. Who the fuck is that?
Who is that?
Great, that's helpful.
Is that our guest? Is that our guest?
Wait, who's doing the laughing?
Let me tell you what I've heard here over the last 30 minutes.
Oh,
We
that's
got a
McConaughey.
reboot here.
my
My
God.
daughter's iPad got cloned, and then it got wiped right before the dog peed on it. So I got to reboot one more time. Wait a minute, it's buffering. Wait, let me reinstall. No, I'm installing. It's going to restart. We got a failure. I need a security check. Oh shit, we got a virus. Let me reschedule this whole show one more time. Shit, you know what? You guys start without me. Fuck that. Everyone be patient. Oh shit, what are we going to do? I'm going to tell the fucking tale.
Dude,
We're good.
shit, Matthew, man. We're so
That's fantastic.
sorry.
Well, that's entertaining. Kind of reminded me laughing at you.
That's why I played it.
That's perfect.
See, I brought it full circle. I'm Teresa Strasser, and that's the news.
That was the news with Teresa Strasser. Fuck you, CNN.
All right, another author's coming in. The Origins of Woke. He is Richard.
Chapter 1, Orny Adams.
I think I'm saying Hanania. Right? We'll see if we can fix it. Good. Richard's going to be in. We'll talk to him right after this. Viator experiences are what people love most about travel. I mean, God, taking my son fishing in Alaska, that was so amazing. I'll never forget it. Viator, it's a website and app for booking travel experiences like seeing Stonehenge or a walking tour of Rome. Over 300,000 bookable experiences in 190 countries. Millions of real travelers' reviews. So you have the information you need to book the best activities for your trip. With Viator, there's always flexibility and support with free cancellation, payment options, and 24/7 service. So let's get out there and experience life, shall we? Download the Viator app now and use the code Viator10 for 10% off your first booking in the app. One app, over 300,000 travel experiences you won't forget. Do more with Viator. Teresa hanging, Orny hanging, Richard Hanania. He's an author, The Origins of Woke, Civil Rights Law, Corporate America, and the Triumph of Identity Politics is in studio. And you can get that wherever you find finer books, like Teresa's book. So what's the premise of the book, Richard?
So the idea is, I've been a social scientist. I've been in academia for the last decade or so. And I was watching, the whole wokeness wars, all these things that we talk about. And a lot of people don't know that, this actually a lot of this stuff came from law. So people look at the universities today. They say the universities have lost their minds. It was actually the federal government that came to them first and said, you have to start paying attention to the race and the sex of your applicants for your hiring. They tried to push back on that. It was really a lot of the same stuff went in corporate America. So what the book is trying to do, it's trying to take this history and say, look, this stuff is traceable to something. It's not just some sort of thing in the cultural ether. And then there's actually a way to understand this and then a way to actually do something about it.
I find it to be very destructive, but everyone thinks I'm an asshole. But I was watching TV, watching the news last night, and like the New York City Council was arguing over what to do with the Christopher Columbus statue, and half of them want to take it off, and the other said, no, we just need a plaque saying he was a bad man, and we'll put it on the statue. And then someone said the plaque would be between $5,000 and $10,000. And I was like, there's a mass of migrant humanity that is camped out in front of your building, and you guys are arguing over which plaque to put on the statue that no one gives a shit about. I find it destructive from that standpoint. Like, look, we need to prioritize things and get our fucking shit together and start working on real problems rather than soccer coaches kissing people or Christopher Columbus statues. But I think they like the distraction.
Yeah, I mean, if only it was a way to waste government officials' times, right? I mean, what's going on in law schools? What's going on in medical schools? I mean, it's absolutely frightening, right? The merit. I mean, they're getting rid of the standardized test. The standardized test is the only way. Basically, I was talking to somebody. I have my own little show on Twitter, and the guy was an Afghan refugee who had gone to high school in UAE, and he ended up at Yale only because of the standardized test. It can pluck you if you're talented from anywhere in the world. We're getting rid of that. We're getting rid of any standards in the name of equity, in the name of racial diversity, and this is harmful. I mean, this is rise and fall of nations kind of things. I mean, historically.
Oh, I completely agree. Well, so what we have, and again, everyone loves affirmative action, but they don't really realize the implications of it. We have a president who is feeble in doddering, and I don't know what the over-under on Biden is. 27 months, 3 years, I'm not sure.
Taking the under on 3 years.
He's coming undone. And because of affirmative action, we have a woman with a 10-cent head who can't construct sentences or thoughts, who shall be taking his place if he perishes, and or we don't know what to do with him because nobody wants her running the country because he made the announcement that he needed a black female. And as I yelled at Dr. Drew the other day, if you said, I want a black female, and everyone would go, yeah, okay, that's what we do because we're fucking idiots. I'm like, I want the best person for the job, but you've limited your pool of people that are qualified to do this job by doing black female. But what if we just said black female and they have to be a Pisces? Then everyone would go, well, that's fucking nuts because there's nobody to choose from. And you'd go, yeah, but you're doing a version of that when you're announcing in advance that this person needs to be of this race and this gender.
Yeah. And I mean, from the Democratic perspective, I mean, it hurts them, right? Because Kamala Harris is a horrible politician. I mean, does poorly, does worse than Biden on any measure of favorability, running against Trump. So, they picked the one black female in the serious candidate in the Democratic primary, and they're stuck with her.
Yeah, well, fuck them because they shouldn't have done this in the first place.
Well, I might be misremembering this. It's just like a microcosmic example, but I think you wanted to be a firefighter at one point, Adam. And you were on a waiting list for a long time.
Really?
When I was 18 and a half or 19, I was completely rudderless. My parents could have been worse than Teresa's. I don't know. There was no money.
It's a dogfight.
There was no money, and you guys think the economy is bad now, although Bidenomics going to kick in any second. You think the economy's bad now? The economy was much worse in 1983, 82, 83. I used to remember going into the home savings and loan just to get a little air conditioning and look up. The rates on a T-bill were 19%. On like a 3-year T-bill, you got a return of 19%. You could only imagine what kind of rates you were getting if you're trying to buy a home. All right, the economy was garbage, and the only difference between the economy now and the economy then is it was worse, and they weren't hiring. Now, the economy's shit, but they are hiring. Then, nothing. I walked to the North Hollywood fire station, and I just said, listen, I got a strong back. I played sports. I'm not scared of anything, and I have no personal safety requirements at all. I will be a kick-ass fireman. And the guy said, well, you can put in an application, but it's going to be a lot of years before your phone rings. And that was a long time ago. Now, I was a perfect candidate in that I was poor and that I was hardworking, I was honest, and I needed a job badly. But because of the color of my skin, and the guy told me straight out, not hiring.
Yeah, I mean, it's worse.
Why do you think, it was because of the color of your skin?
Because they're hiring blacks and Hispanics, and it was affirmative action.
They said that?
No, I'm making this whole thing.
No, I mean, a leap just happened in your story.
Well, I feel
No,
like
the
you
guy said
returned.
no. The guy said you're not. You can fill out an application, but you're not going to hear from us for years.
But you were saying that the economy was bad and there were no jobs. So,
well, you could get. People wanted a federal government job. I mean, they wanted government jobs. There was no private sector jobs. I don't know that the fire department was depleted and needed new candidates. It was just they were only hiring black, Hispanic, maybe female. They were doing affirmative action, which would not get you your best firemen. That's for fucking sure.
Yeah, because I seem to recall you then got a call. It might have been years later, and we're waiting in a line.
I got a letter sent from the LA Fire Department to my dad's house because I was living in the garage at the time. By the time the letter showed up, I was like on my third apartment. I was like 26 years old, and I was a carpenter at that point. So I had moved on. But yes, sorry, Richard.
Yeah, it's not an unreasonable assumption. And not only like it's usually not that explicit. Go home, you're white. We're probably not going to call you. It's usually like, let's screw with the test because the test might give us results we don't want. So we have to sort of screw with the test and give these people an advantage. So yeah, this is everywhere. I mean, you could have been talking about academia. You could have been talking about getting a small business loan, whatever. It's the same story.
Well, I believe I'm getting this right, but the New York Times music critic said, let's do away with blind auditions. So first, they did auditions.
Yeah.
And they sat in a room with the people and listened to them play the cello. Then somebody said there's not enough black people in this orchestra, so we need to do blind auditions because you're not hiring black celloists because they're black. So then they did blind auditions where you just sit behind a curtain and play your cello. And then not enough black people or women or Hispanics or whatever made it into the Philharmonic.
Yeah.
So now they said, do away with that so we can see what color you are, so we can hire you in our orchestra, even if your playing is inferior. That's not a good place to be in as a society.
That's the story of the last 60 years. It's
Right.
like
It's
we've
very
been biased,
complicated,
we'll do
though.
The other thing.
Because I would like to go and see classical music and see diversity in the orchestra. I would like the fire department to have people of all races and creeds. But if my
Why?
house is on fire,
But why?
If my house is on fire, I would like Adam Carolla to be arriving.
Well, there's
an 18-year-old Adam Carolla to carry me out.
There's no diversity in sports per se. There's many NFL teams where the entire defensive side of the ball is black, but you assume those are the best 11 players on the team at defense, so then you watch it and enjoy it.
What's your take on diversity in stand-up comedy?
I'm not for diversity's sake for anything. Airline pilots or stand-up comedy. I'm not for obstacles for people. If you're female and you want to be a pilot, or you're black or Hispanic and you want to be a pilot, you want to do stand-up, or you want to play in the NFL. I'm for a level playing field, and then let the cream rise to the top.
Well, the diversity argument is sort of nonsense because you're right. When it's blacks are doing better than whites, like the NFL quarterback, they go 10, 20 years without a white starter. Nobody says the NFL quarterback, position needs more diversity. Now, the quarterback position where blacks are overrepresented relative to general population, but like there's still more whites relative to other positions, then come people say, okay, we need more black quarterbacks. So there is sort of this sort of asymmetry. I don't think the diversity argument is what actually people want. People just want more blacks and Hispanics.
Well, what we don't want is we don't want to see a black man walking through the halls of Harvard and go, is he only here because, which this creates. It's a byproduct by the way, it's now in the Oscars. For every award show. It was like, was Moonlight really the best movie of the year? Because I never want to see that fucking movie again. But is Abbott Elementary that good? Because I've watched a few episodes and it's okay, but it's not to be celebrated as one of the greatest sitcoms ever. By the way, you can watch The Middle, all white people from Indiana, much funnier sitcom. But the point is now we're second guessing. Now we see the cast of Abbott Elementary get their awards, and we go, "Is that because?" And now that's in our head, and that fucks up all. By the way, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is fucking polluted now because they put Joan Jett in there because she's a lesbian and she's female. She has 2 shit songs and doesn't deserve to be there. There are many male groups that deserve to be there before her, but she's there. So I think, oh, she's only there because that. But the same thing I think about with Kamala Harris. Like, oh, of course she doesn't know what the fuck she's talking about. She's only there because she's a black woman. Those are horrible thoughts.
You know what's great? 4 white people having this discussion.
That's right.
Hey,
I mean, somehow this makes me a little bit uncomfortable.
I think
the lack of diversity.
You're jumping to conclusions.
The lack of
about my ethnic background.
What is your ethnic background?
I'm a Middle Easterner.
You are?
Yes, as an Arab, I resent being put
Yes.
in the white box.
You
This
see that?
is like the Unite here now. You got 2 Jews and an Arab.
Okay.
Yeah, this is
quite
international
diverse.
Peace.
I'm just looking at everybody around. That's all.
We need some Northern
Richard,
Europeans.
in doing research for your book, what was the most surprising thing that you found?
A lot of the sort of the history of how we classify race. So you were just talking about TV, Abbott Elementary. It's really funny. In the 1950s, the biggest sitcom in the country was I Love Lucy. And so this network, they worried, this is an interracial couple. Are people going to have sort of, are they going to be uncomfortable with that? 1950s, interracial marriage is banned in, a dozen or 15 states or something like that. And they found that people didn't care. And nobody even talked about diversity at the time. Now, the term Hispanic Latino, Ricky Ricardo was Cuban, right? Nobody even had the term Hispanic Latino. It was barely used in the English language. What happened was the government in the 1970s starts using the term, and I have a chart in my book. You could see the mentions of Hispanic Latino go up. Cuban, I think, stays the same, but Mexican goes down, Puerto Rican goes down. So we invented this category called Hispanic. It became part of the English language after it was a government category, and it influences everything. The I Love Lucy example is just funny because people thought it would be a thing, but it just wasn't. And today, if I Love Lucy was today, people would be like, wow, this is so much diversity. This is so cool, right? They wouldn't even be thinking about the show.
My general supposition is people don't care nearly as much as everyone thinks we care about race. It's 2023. We should get the fuck over it. But there's much more talk about race and diversity in 2023 than there was in 1993. And it's insulting, really. And also, as I said to Dave Rubin said something to me, who's now fled California for Florida. But Dave Rubin, who used to be a hard lefty, and I don't know if was he with the Young Turks or was he with HuffPo? I think it was with HuffPo. Whatever. He's intellectually honest. He's a smart guy, and he's a nice man. He's gay. Poor husband's named David as well. But great cook. Been to the house. But he said something that always stuck with me. He's like, at some point, he started thinking about, he was with the Young Turks, because he's a thinker and he's an intellect. He's like, how is it possible that everyone who disagrees with us is racist? Like, how could that be? On any subject. It doesn't have to be on a subject of race. It's just be a subject of taxes or schooling or school choice or any. So everyone is just magically racist who disagrees with us on any subject. That's intellectually kind of weak sauce. Like, you're going to have to do a little better than that. By the way, The Atlantic just wrote an article on your book calling it a gateway to extremism and a Trojan horse to white supremacy.
Well, I mean,
which is all they do.
Who could have seen that coming?
Nobody.
That's no.
Have you read that review?
AI is not going to replace these people. I mean, you never know what they're going to say. I read.
Well, what do they find so objectionable about your book?
Well, I mean, they take one line, for example, and they say, employers face lawsuits if they give tests because white people might do too well relative to black people. Now, this is literally true. This is why, like civil rights law, like you can get sued for giving a test because that happens. So it's just a fact. It's a fact that this guy happens not to like. And, it's really, the media, on some things, they're better or they're worse. On anything like when you touch these sacred cows,
yes.
It's not like they just make bad arguments. It's like, it's just really just dishonest. It's just their minds malfunction. They got a lot of pushback for that on social media, thank God. But yeah, it was not, I don't think, a serious critique of the book.
Well, one of the things that has been stuck in my craw lately involving race, and it's now we're at some weird point, some inflection point where Remember about a month ago, everyone on the left was going nuts because a couple of black scholars wrote in a history book that many slaves learned a trade while they were enslaved. And then when they got out, they applied the trade as blacksmith or roofer or whatever and used the skill that they learned. And then everyone on the left went nuts. By the way, you always know you're winning the argument when they're making up what you're saying. He said slavery was a good thing? He said it was a good thing. It's like, no. If you went to prison, you might learn to be an electrician while in prison. And then when you got out of prison, then you might be an electrician. But we're not saying prison is a good thing, just saying you learned something while you're in this horrible circumstance. But the inflection point to me that I kept yelling at everyone, because one side was yelling was racist, and the other side was saying, these are black scholars who wrote this paper, and it's in the book. My thing is, did it happen or didn't it happen? Because you're writing a history book, and there's going to be a chapter on slavery. And so if it happened that some of them learned a trade while enslaved and then used that trade when they became freed, well, then it happened. And it's a history book, and so you're allowed to put that in the history book because you may not like the sinking of the Lusitania, but it happened, and that's what history is. It's a collection of things that happened.
Yeah. When did the Lusitania sink? I missed this story.
German torpedo. World War One? 1916? 15, 16?
Yeah, I think that's about right.
Richard, in the book, do you get into
15.
The origin?
What the fuck? I got that right?
It's amazing.
It's a nice
It's amazing.
number.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
D minus student.
Multiple of 5.
D minus.
Nothing. That's why we've got to get rid of standardized tests.
I know.
For that reason, right there. Richard, I haven't read a book, but the origins of woke, do you get into the actual expression, where it came from?
No, that's actually, that's maybe false advertising on my part. I know a little bit from what I've read on the internet. I know that
But shouldn't you be so informed of that?
I'm telling you the concept of woke. You're right. There's an etymological.
Here's the question that I have to ask about this.
Yeah.
How many people actually agree with the bizarre insanity of saying things like we need to lower the test scores for certain groups and or something like the New York Times critic who says we're not going to do blind tests anymore to see if you get it. Like, how many people actually agree with it versus just people that are fucking scared because they don't want to be run over by the culture? Like, I was doing comedy last night. I was at the Improv, and I had a pretty prominent comedian come up to me and say, must be nice being able to say whatever you want about COVID. And I was like, yeah, it is, because I don't work for fucking Disney. And he's like, yeah, I got a job. So he agrees with me probably on many things, but he's got to remain silent because he's scared of being deplatformed or destroyed. How many people actually believe this shit? Because it's bullshit. How many people actually believe it versus all the fucking scared people that are just going along with it?
How many people don't spend all day thinking about it? Like, you spend so much time thinking of this stuff, consumed by it.
No, I'm not. I'm interviewing an author who wrote a book.
Okay. All right. I mean, you watched the town hall meeting from New York last night. I mean,
I saw a snippet of it. I saw a snippet of people arguing over plaques.
Listen, between that, he was binge watching What's the New Sex in the City?
And Just Like That.
There you go.
I would love Just Like That, and I watch TMZ every night.
I'd love to have a six-pack with you and just bro out over council meetings.
I watch. Oh, you could bro like Bill Maher could.
Oh, believe me. I got a little more broing out than Bill's got.
I watched The Love Boat.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I watch TMZ, and then I watch Winning Time.
How is that?
I'm watching Just Like That.
That's a lot of watching.
Yeah.
You ever see The Love Boat with Andy Warhol?
Yes.
That's great.
What? No.
You never have to start with Did You Ever See and end with Love Boat.
Oh, really?
The answer is yes.
Yeah.
100% yes.
Who was the hottest guest star for you?
On The Love Boat?
Yes.
The greatest episode of Love Boat, and now we got to look for it for a second. In 1979?
When the Lusitania sank?
Or 1980, it was Literally, there was an episode in 1980 where Mackenzie Phillips
Had sex with her dad.
was playing a transgender who had post-op transgendered into a woman from a man. And the man, formerly the man, was Gopher's old college buddy, who then became a woman and came on the ship. And Gopher was like, I know you from somewhere. And Mackenzie was like, I don't know. I don't think we've ever met. No, you look so funny. Do you have a brother? I think I was friends with your brother. And he's like, no, never met. And then at some point, Gopher figures it out, spazzes out, like has the reaction that everyone in 1979 would have. Because I think Gopher may have been attracted to her or something.
Yes.
Oh.
And then the captain sits him down for a very important heart-to-heart about the transgender
That was
community.
the Boys Don't Cry boat.
That was 1980 or 79.
Full-on transition, like bottom surgery and everything?
They didn't quite get
She
it.
didn't lift the skirt, but yeah. The person I was thinking of more was the agent of Mackenzie Phillips who had to give up.
We need an actress that
Young
looks-
ingenue. Say no more.
They don't want you as you. Everybody else got to play themselves.
What am I playing? Some sort of international socialite?
Yeah. No.
What's the premise of the
Gopher's
Love Boat?
roommate.
Is it like a dating show? They try.
Oh,
they're
you
supposed-
Arabs, you never. You don't know.
You don't know
anything.
Love
I
Boat?
think it's being a little. I mean,
He's young.
before my time.
Are we going to play this full episode right now?
I'm
We have
telling what
like
they can
9
find.
clips from it. We just want to watch a few.
I'd love to see like when they meet for the first time.
Okay.
By
yeah.
the way, when you saw this in your tender years, were you sexually attracted to the character like Gopher?
I
Or
was
confused?
a Valerie Bertinelli fan.
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
in her camp.
Yeah.
Another reference Richard doesn't get. But 1982,
He's a Schneider guy.
they tackled transgender.
That's crazy.
In 1982.
That's really
All right,
crazy.
I will play the clip where they met. Gopher suspicious, and then later on, Gopher has a moment like, all right, we'll shut.
Well, is she in a bikini?
I think so. Well, here's where they meet.
Johnson reporting for her first cruise.
I certainly hope it won't be your last.
Are you trying to tell me the captain is a rotten driver?
Rachel Johnson, you're
Good
in cabin
stuff.
342, and that's
Yes.
on the promenade deck. Just through those doors, hang a right, and you're practically there.
Aye, aye, mates.
I'm Dr. Bricker. If you need anything, aspirins, Band-Aids,
What a
dancing parties,
scumbag.
I got them both.
He's hitting on, he hits
Yeah.
on everyone.
He's very Spanish soccer vibes.
Yeah, that's. he needs
Here's
to be
Gopher.
canceled.
Here comes Gopher. Or she's running from Gopher.
She didn't know Gopher was going to be on the ship.
Run.
Guys, you see that super-looking chick going up the stairs?
Chick.
Super looking chick.
This is your show, Adam.
Doc checked her out. You didn't trust my direction. She's in Promenade 342. I could have sworn I told her to go through those doors. Well, maybe she's got a guy stashed away on another deck. She looks familiar to me.
These guys are pigs.
Rachel Johnson.
Diverse though.
Then you're probably not the guy she has stashed away. Just wishful thinking, I guess.
Looks familiar in
Look at the
Act One.
cigarette ashtray
Oh, yeah.
on the wall.
I don't think the Love Boat crew had to watch sexual harassment training videos.
Oh, my. You don't even know the half of it. The doc hits on every chick who walks onto that ship.
He's offering Band-Aids. That is some weak game.
He
He has zero riz.
I got
He never
Band-Aids.
stops hitting on. So it's all right. I don't know how we got on the Love Boat. Let's get back to wokeism. So it's fucking up the campuses. It's fucking up the government. It's fucking up everything. And it's funny because I was talking about it the other day, which is people always used airline pilot. To be intellectually honest, I think they would use airline pilot and like cardiologist sort of interchangeably, where they'd go like, look, all this affirmative action and all this minority hiring and stuff. One day the airline pilots are going to be whatever. And then I was walking through the airport in Chicago the other week, and I just passed a billboard with two women, and they're basically united as saying we are hiring minorities. We want minority pilots, which means we're now there.
Yeah. For airline pilots, I hear now that the planes basically, they basically fly themselves. So I don't know. Maybe that doesn't matter for airline pilots. But yeah, for medicine, they kicked off. There was a guy who Biden put at the head of like the cancer initiative, the moonshot to cure cancer. White male. It turned out he yelled at some women. It wasn't even sexual. He yelled at some women, made them uncomfortable, created a hostile work environment. They kicked him off. And you could read the story in Politico. Every single person who works with this guy is like, this is the guy who should have been running the cancer moonshot. Could he have solved cancer? We'll never know. You can't prove that he would have solved cancer or anything. But the guy was out of the job.
I just don't think there's two things I hate about it. It presumes there's a problem that doesn't exist in any real measurable way in 2023. It's like, we got to get more males into nursing. It's like, if women want to nurse and women want to be school teachers and males want to work construction cranes, then that's fine. I don't want males kept out of nursing. I'm just saying I don't need them artificially shoved into nursing because somebody's not seeing a diverse enough group at the hospital. And I've completely signed off on the concept of certain cultures liking different things. Certain foods, certain music, certain professions, certain body types. There's just people of different cultures gravitate towards certain jobs. And that's fine with me unless we're artificially what we're doing now is artificially infusing this. If we can just, and if there's a problem where you feel like you've been wronged because of your sex or because of your race, then I'm all ears. But until then, let's just let everyone gravitate toward what they would like to do.
Yeah, and where we went wrong was we went straight from intentional discrimination, which is the intention behind the Civil Rights Act of '64, to disparate impact. Once you could start proving it with statistics, not proving it with statistics, but basically anything that one group does better than another, you jump to the assumption that it's discrimination. Yeah, you're right. People prefer different jobs, people prefer different body types. If there is diversity, there's diversity. It doesn't mean we're all going to be the same thing, right?
Well, and the bigger problem is there's no such thing as just we're going to help this group and not discriminate against another group. Yeah. So if you're on a UC campus and you go, we want to help more Black and Hispanics get onto this campus, there's only a finite amount of open chairs on that campus, and it means you're going to have to start telling Asians who have higher test scores that they're not welcome on that campus. It's always a two-way street. You can't just keep saying, it's like if you said the Buffalo Bills has only Black players on the defensive side of the ball, I need to get a Jew or an Asian in there. You'd go, oh, that's great. Except for you'd have to tap one of the Black guys who was starting at cornerback and go, you got to go sit down.
Well, there's been a lot of controversy in where I grew up in San Francisco because there's a very competitive public school, and there was a large amount of Asian students, and so there was some conflict about, well, are there too many? And then if everybody wants to have a diverse environment, but does that then discriminate against an Asian student who might have high test scores and grades and deserves a spot?
Yeah, and even the diverse thing is funny because the New York Times, they ran a story about this, one of these elite high schools in New York City. And they were some high percentage Asian. But they go to the school and they're from Bangladesh, they're from Vietnam, they're from China, they're from Egypt. And it's like, this is diverse by any measure. It's just you American, our four big racial categories that we invented for weird historical reasons, are the ones we care about. And so, yeah, even this word diversity, it really doesn't have a solid meaning in these contexts. Yeah,
it's really racist to take Mexicans and Guatemalans and Hondurans and just sort of put them in one corral when they have very different thoughts. May not like each other, may have their own issues, but to Rich Whitey, it's like, you guys are all Hispanic or Latinx or whatever it is we're labeling you
Asian
this weekend.
Pacific Islander. That's my favorite one. It's it's from Pakistan to Micronesia. It is really just a very bizarre thing. I have an entire chapter on how we invented these races, and you won't believe the story. It's just so illogical.
So how much of this is kind of nefarious? I don't think many of these people really believe it, but they certainly use the shit out of it, like Byron Allen. He's like one of the richest guys in the world because they say we need X amount of African American, network, whatevers, and he goes in and gets it all. Smart. But how many of us really, how many folks really kind of believe it, or how many are just sort of gaming the system? I feel like politicians are just full of shit across the board with this stuff all the time.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a combination. I mean, I've come from academia most of my adult life, and these people believe it. I mean, you tell them something that like goes against their ideologies, tell them some fact they don't want to hear, they get physically, emotional. But that's the universities. Maybe the universities draw those kind of people. Yeah, there's people who just get the contracts. I mean, they're taking advantage of. I mean, the people who benefit from affirmative action, they're usually not poor blacks. They're not from the south side of Chicago. They're sometimes, racially mixed. They might be a quarter or half black, and they might be very wealthy. And of course, it's a grift, it's a hustle. So yeah, I think it takes sort of all types to build this thing.
I think to me the part that I get upset about is how there seems to be a deliberate attempt to cause a strife in the race relations, that they sort of want us fighting about this all the time and kind of going about it and talking about it all the time.
That's what Manson said.
Yeah, it was a Manson plan, and Joe Biden does the same shit. He's up there talking about white supremacy is the biggest problem this country faces. Like, he never stops talking about white supremacy, and he says patently racist things like, there's a black boys are just as smart as dumb boys, and black entrepreneurs would be every bit as good as white entrepreneurs, except they don't have access to lawyers or accountants. It's like they don't have access to lawyers or accountants. This baggage handling fee disproportionately affects poor people and black people. Like, it does? Black people is just their own category now. They have to pay more for luggage, extra luggage on a Southwest flight. Like, they just fan the flames nonstop. I know everyone thinks I'm an asshole for bringing it up all the time, but that's all they do, and it pisses me off because they're essentially walking into a room where there are two kids getting along, or who would get along just fine, and then they come in the room and they go, your brother called you fat. Oh, you didn't hear him? Oh, he did. He doesn't want you in this room. He thinks you're too fat to be in this room. Anyway, I just thought you should know I'm going to head out now. And then they leave, and then the agitation starts. Or they wouldn't talk about it so fucking much, and they wouldn't infuse it into everything. It gets grafted onto every encounter. Like, I mean, you just had poor Jan Wenner just got dumped from the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame because he tried to write a book about rock icons, and he just got shit canned because someone wanted to know why there wasn't any black or females amongst his 7 Bob Dylans and Pete Townsends, and he said, they couldn't articulate the subject as well as these guys could, and like, now he's gone. Like, it just gets infused into everything.
Remember when saying blacks were articulate was actually racist?
Oh, yeah. You can't say articulate or inarticulate. Yes.
Yes.
Yes, well, you're right.
Yes, people at a certain point believe that was code.
Mm-hmm. Mm. Yeah.
Right. But what is the non-code? Because non-articulate is also bad, so...
Well, you just say nothing. I mean,
you can't say not. Silence is...
Well, then we get into this weird zone.
And you're Jan Wenner.
Well, Jan Winter's going to write, his son will write a book one day, and he'll write his 5 guitar gods, and he'll realize that there's not a woman on there, and he'll have to fucking put a woman on that list.
Joan Jett, baby.
He'll have to put Joan Jett on the list of rock guitar gods because he doesn't want to get in trouble with the wokesters, and now we don't know if that's his list or he just modified it, which is the same version of the black guy on the campus of Harvard. Not a good place to reside.
Yeah, I think so. I think you're right.
Why wasn't my chair given armrests? I feel like everyone else got armrests. I feel like I'm being forced into a situation where I have to perform at a different level with less equipment than you guys.
Oh, you're being
That's
hobbled.
a good point.
You're like a center fielder with one cleat.
Yeah,
I feel like, you know what I mean? You're making me bat with a heavier bat.
Well,
and I
a
just like
heavier
to
bat, you hit
I'd
the
like to
ball
point it
harder.
out since you're so into the equality and.
But you do stand up with no armrests.
Yeah.
I haven't been standing this whole podcast. I've been sitting.
Your hair's
been
standing.
paying attention.
No, but I'm saying
one of the
when you-
greatest listeners of our generation. You've stated that before.
Have you?
It ranks up there with no one receives oral like me. I think it's one of the greatest compliments that could be paid to a man. All right, let's give a plug to all the parties. The origins of woke, civil rights law, corporate America, and the triumph of identity politics. It is available wherever you find finer books. And if you're looking for one of those books, you can find Teresa's as well. Making It Home, which is... she's a wonderful writer. That's what I'll say about Teresa. Orny Adams live shows coming up all over the place. Go to ornyadams.com and find out where he's going to be. I'll be in Louisville this Friday and Saturday doing shows at the Louisville Comedy Club. Until next time, this is Adam for Nelson and Teresa and Richard and Orny saying mahalo.